So, my grandmother comes from rural Alabama. She was born and raised on a farm in rural Alabama in 1922. So as you can imagine, she picked cotton. Her family owned the land that she was picking cotton on, and her grandfather had owned it. My grandfather, who she married and met when they were both young people, was a sharecropper, very different. My grandmother said that the only work available to women, black women who didn't want to work on farms, and she had decided so when she was a kid that she didn't, was domestic work. This meant working in a white family's home. And she recounted several stories of how this went for her and her immediate elder sister, who also did something similar. She said on one of the occasions, the actual wife of the woman of the household, the white woman, said, "My husband liked colored gals." And my grandmother went on to recount how this went for her. And I do have the strong suspicion that she censored much of it for my benefit and for hers as well. Now, Me Too. Was this male privilege, white privilege, Christian privilege, middle-class privilege? What layers of privilege made it normal such that even the women in these situations were recruiting effectively other women, working women, black women, for their husbands' pleasures? I think we have to recognize that for every man who believed that he could take advantage of the women's bodies around him, whether or not he understood power and how he was abusing it, that there are 10 people, women, people of color, non-Christians, who were booted out, who were excluded, who were not even invited to the table for those jobs. So while those men think that they got there through merit, we have to also understand what privilege means, and what Me Too is exposing is that not only have they abused privilege once they got there, but now we have to acknowledge that even getting there meant that they already weren't there on merit. They already were in a good old boys club. And that's the most difficult part, I think, for people to recognize, because even those who don't consider themselves racist or sexist or Islamophobic or homophobic, you benefit from being within the culture of power. I think as a man, as a gay man, and as an effeminate gay man, I am forced in one day, I can be in one room and be within inside a culture of power, and in the next room, outside of it. For example, I can be in a room where men are open and accept my masculinity, and as soon as I leave the room, who knows what those men might say about me. And I've even, in some of my workplaces, I don't want to comment on my current workplace, it's not fair to them, but I've had people say things to my face that are very different from what they say behind my back. This goes for women as well, and this is how power is meted out. You get to know who's inside the culture, who's normal, who's acceptable, and who's out. And along those lines begins a whole line of abuse.